Today we are digging up all of the dahlias in our dahlia breeding patch, which is actually more like a field. And I thought it would be fun to take you through our process that we go through every year when we dig up tubers, not only on a larger scale, but we have a lot of varieties. So first I wanted to run you through. So Jill does this for me every year. She does a dahlia breeding 2024, that's obviously this year, the season recap by the numbers. So we started out with 168 individual varieties that are part of our breeding program. And of those, I ended up deciding 48 of them are not going to move forward. So when deciding on a new variety, I'm looking for things that have really great coloring, nice flower form, long, strong stems, healthy, vigorous plants. And we're growing them and really like assessing whether or not they make the cut each year. So every year, some of the varieties that have been growing for a while here on the farm, they just don't stand up to the test of time and they don't make the cut. So of those, of the 168, 48 of them, they were a pass. So she says a reduction of 28.57%, which is good because I tend to always increase everything. So my goal the last couple of years is to decrease, kind of concentrate our efforts, hone in and focus. And then I discovered 19 new varieties in our seedling patch. So that kind of brings it up again. So the grand total of breeding varieties that are moving forward to 2025 are 139. So this is the season recap. So in this field, we have all but the 19 discoveries growing out here. And yeah, we've got everybody working. So I'm gonna show you step by step each of the steps that we go through to prep and dig all of our dahlias. And then later on we divide, not now. But this process is a little bit complicated and kind of interesting. Now, normally we wait to dig until after we've had a hard frost, and there was frost in the forecast last night, but it didn't happen. And so we already made plans, everybody's ready to go. So we're just gonna go ahead and dig anyway, but typically we wait till our first hard frost, but that'll be in any day. So we're just gonna go ahead. So what we do is the way that we stake our dahlias to keep them from falling over during the growing season is we use T-posts. They're placed about every, I think 10 feet or so down the row on either side of the rows. And then we corral our plants with baling twine or string lines. So the gals have gone through here and already removed all of the string lines. So you can see the plants are starting to kind of flop over. So that's step one, is taking off the string. Step two is coming through with loppers and cutting down all of the plants. So we chop the plants at the base and then we flop them over into the pathway. So we try to get them all to fall on one side. So when we go to scoop them up and take them to the compost pile, it's so much easier and you're not tripping over things. We reel up all of the drip irrigation. So the way that we water our dahlias is using 3 lines of drip irrigation per bed. So Francisco and Jason have disconnected the lines from the main line, and now they're reeling it up onto our Wonder Winder, which is this great irrigation spool. We always have one person, and that person is Jill, on the labeling, making sure that all of our what we're keeping and what are pass, what's getting labeled, is all being accounted for.
Yep, so everything that was a pass is flagged with an irrigation flag in pink, and you can see that out in the field. But then all of the keepers, I've written a loop label for and then have organized it by row. And this is Erin's love language.
It is.
So because you're looping and you might loop either direction, they're double-sided.
Yeah, see, it's like, it's the little things that make life worth living. And then she's got her whole bin of labels. So a lot of work is done in advance inside, getting organized for this. And a lot of steps happen before we actually go to do the real digging. Yep. The next step, she's putting the loop label on the end of the crate. If you don't have loop labels, you can also use flagging tape, which works really well. And then she's gonna go take each one of these crates and match it up with the variety so that when the diggers get to it, they already have everything they need.
Yep, so just confirming as we go down so no one has to check. 162 matches up with 162.
Okay, so once all the crates are labeled and placed, then diggers are coming through. So Sam and Nikki and Eric are all digging. They're also chopping, but they're going through with pitchforks. We always like to use a pitchfork because the soil falls away more easily and you're not slicing through tubers. If you accidentally hit some, you're just kind of spearing them. But you see as Sam's lifting it back, the soil's kind of falling away. So we like to do things in steps rather than doing like what we're doing first is you can see Eric's going through and he's lifting all the clumps out, shaking off some of the dirt. And we've left the stalks a little bit longer because then you kind of have a handle. But when we go to put them in the crate, we need to come through one more time and chop them down more flush with the tuber clump just so that they fit into the crate better. But you can see he's got all the ones that he's digging for this. They're sitting out and then we'll come through and chop them. One of the things that we do that we've found that really helps with long-term storage is when we dig our tubers, we actually leave some dirt on the clumps. We don't wash these before we put them away. So we shake off any excess dirt, but we definitely leave a coating of it on the tubers. And we found that they store really well that way. It's almost like they're kind of sealed in. So shake off the big chunks, put them in crates, and then you'll see how we store these. But we don't divide right away. We normally wait till we have some time in the winter, and that's when we divide. So it's important that these guys don't shrivel in storage, and that's why we leave the dirt on. The whole field is now dug, and you can see that for each of the varieties that we were digging, we've got a crate or more of each variety. They're just waiting. So we're doing things in steps. So we've dug, we've chopped, we put them in their crates, and then we're going to carry them all and put them on pallets. We label the handles of every crate and like to have the labels facing outward before we shrink wrap them. I'll show you that step here in a second. But it's just really great to be able to see what a variety is without having to lift all the crates off. And we are using these white loop labels. I think we got them on Amazon, I'm not sure, but they worked pretty good this year. But in years past, we've used flagging tape, which you can get at like Home Depot or Lowe's. It's over in the like marking section where they would have like the caution tape, and it comes in a number of different colors. This works really good with a Sharpie. And then the black crates, everybody always asks where we get these. So we have collected them over the years when we order in bulbs in bulk. On a farm scale, they come in these black bulb crates, but we also live next to some of the biggest tulip producers here in Washington and have been able to buy extra crates from them. But other than that, you can use a milk crate. You could use anything. We like stuff that's a little bit breathable. You can use, plastic bins or anything like that, but these work really good for farm scale. So now Sam's going through with the clipboard that has all the varieties that we were digging because we didn't keep everything that was in the field. So he's checking the labels against the sheets just to make sure that everybody's accounted for, and then we're going to wrap these up and take them to the barn. We've got all the pallets that are full of tubers, and Francisco and Jacob are going along and doing shrink wrap around them because this will help keep them from tipping over when we drive them into the barn, because we're able to use our forks on the front of our tractor. So you can see they're doing it nice and tight, lots of layers. And then we can recycle that plastic at the end of the season, so we're not throwing it in the landfill or anything. Here we are back at the barn. This is the last step in the Dahlia's journey until it's stored, and then we'll pull these guys out in the winter to divide them, but we're not going to be doing that right now. So Jacob has got the pallet jack and he's pulling in each of the pallets as Francisco brings them up. And then you can see they're shrink wrapped, and one of the reasons we do that, besides adding that extra stability for driving them, is it helps keep in some humidity and moisture. And then he's going to line these guys all up and then put a tarp over the top so that the ones on the top aren't going to dry out. Because that's one of the worst things that can happen for dahlias, is that it gets too, like they don't have enough humidity, and then you'll see them starting to shrivel. So the barn stays, it doesn't get below, I would say mid 40s, even when it's super cold and we have a backup heater, but it kind of hangs around 50 to 60 most days. So it's cool enough, we keep it dark there, and then these guys will just hang out until we go to divide them, probably in February. So if you want to learn about how to divide and store tubers once they're divided, we have our Dahlia mini course going right now, and there's a link below this video to sign up.